Hello, friends. Welcome back to EC Recap. Today, we're exploring a thrilling Russian fantasy movie that'll take you to new heights, literally. It's called The Black Lightning. Now, imagine this. You find a car that not only drives but flies, and it's packed with incredible powers. What would you do with it? Would you become a superhero, explore the skies, or maybe pull off the coolest stunts ever? Let me know your wildest ideas in the comments. Before we start this epic journey, make sure to hit that subscribe button and tap the notification bell for more amazing fantasy movie recaps. Alright, let's get those engines running and dive straight into Black Lightning. The story begins with a team of brilliant scientists working on a groundbreaking project led by their ambitious and headstrong leader, Victor. In the heart of the operation stands a massive, nuclear-powered drilling machine designed to pierce the Earth's crust in search of precious diamonds hidden within the deep rocks. As the machine roars to life and begins its descent, one of the scientists steps forward with a grave warning. "Victor," he says, voice filled with urgency, "we can't go any deeper. If we do, we risk triggering an earthquake that could devastate the city." But Victor, driven by ambition and a thirst for success, waves him off with a dismissive hand. "Nonsense," he declares. "We're too close to stop now." The drilling continues, the machine carving its way through layers of rock, until, suddenly, it halts with a deafening screech. They've hit diamond rock, an impenetrable barrier the nuclear drill isn't powerful enough to break through. Frustration clouds Victor's face as he studies the situation. "This isn't the end," he mutters, pacing. Then, as if struck by a lightning bolt of inspiration, he remembers something: the nano-catalyst. Cue a flashback. During the height of the Soviet Union, Russia embarked on a secret project to dig into the Earth's depths using a nano-catalyst, a mysterious fuel extracted from an asteroid. But the lab that housed this revolutionary substance was abandoned long ago, its secrets buried with it. Determined, Victor turns to his team. "We're going to find that lab," he commands. "And we're bringing back the nano-catalyst." The scene shifts to two of Victor's men sneaking into the decrepit, long-forgotten facility. Dust and shadows dominate the space, the remnants of a bygone era surrounding them. As they search, their flashlights sweep over a surprising discovery: an old, abandoned car sitting in the corner of the lab. One man whistles, impressed. "This could fetch us some serious cash," he says with a sly grin. The other hesitates. "Victor said to bring back everything we find. We can't just take this for ourselves." "Come on," the first man counters, his tone persuasive. "It's been sitting here for decades. Nobody even knows it's here. We'll sell it and split the money." After a moment of deliberation, the second man nods. "All right, but we keep this between us." In college, our hero, John, is sitting with his rich and carefree friend. The two are chatting when Clara, a stunning and confident girl, walks past them. John's friend leans in and smirks. "She's just like any other girl. Treat her to dinner, and she'll be yours," he says casually. But John isn't having it. "No way," he retorts, his eyes following Clara. "She's not like that. She's different. She's special." His friend chuckles, seeing an opportunity to tease. "All right, Mr. Special. Let's make it a challenge. I'll take her to dinner before you even try." After college, as they walk outside, a sleek, luxurious car grabs John's attention. He can't help but admire it. "Look at that beauty," he says, almost dreamily. Just then, his friend dangles a shiny key in front of him. "Want a ride?" he says smugly, and they both were enjoying their ride while they were on the way. Clara happens to be walking by, and his friend seizes the moment. "Hey, Clara, need a ride?" Clara glances at the car, then back at him. "Sure," she says with a smile. Inside the car, John's friend, with a sly grin, introduces John. "This is my driver," he says. John stiffens, his jaw tightening. The humiliation stings, but he stays silent. That evening at home, John watches his dad washing dishes, ever the diligent and supportive father. His family is close-knit, bound by love and hard work. His mom, sensing John's mood, shares a sweet story about their past. "When I worked at the library, Your father used to come to pick me up in his bus, she reminisces, smiling softly. He'd blink the bus lights 3 times and honk the horn. That was our little signal. Back then, owning a car was a dream, a luxury only the rich could afford. John sighs. Even now, we don't have a car like that, he says wistfully before heading to bed. His words linger, leaving his father quietly heartbroken. The next morning, John's sister surprises him with a cheerful, happy birthday. His father, with a warm smile, asks him to step outside. I have something for you, he says. John's heart races as he follows his dad. Parked outside is a car, but his excitement falters when he sees it's an old, worn-down model. Its paint is chipped, and it groans like it's seen better days. John forces a smile. It's great, Dad. Thank you, he says, hiding his disappointment. His father beams with pride, unaware of the laughter from passers-by that pierces John's heart. Determined not to face more ridicule, John decides to take the bus to college. But just as he steps out of the car, he catches sight of his family peeking through the window, their eyes brimming with love and pride, waving to send him off. Moved by their silent support, John changes his mind. He parks the car in a hidden spot, intending to still take the bus. At the stop, an elderly man stumbles, needing help. John instinctively steps in, but by the time he's done, the bus has left. John rushed into college, heart pounding, knowing he was late. He tried to slip into the classroom unnoticed, but luck wasn't on his side. Standing at the front of the room was none other than the famous scientist everyone had been buzzing about. Stop, the scientist said, his sharp gaze locking on John. Why are you late for my rare and valuable class? Caught off guard, John stammered. I was helping an old man who needed assistance. The scientist raised an eyebrow, intrigued. He turned to the class and asked, let's make this a question for all of you. If faced with this choice, helping someone in need or coming to class on time, what would you do? Raise your hand if you come to class. The room was silent. Not a single hand went up. The scientist chuckled. Interesting. Now let me add something. What if I told you being on time would earn you $1,000? Who would come to class then? This time, every hand shot up. John hesitated for a moment before standing and asking, what if I promised to be on time next class without helping anyone? Will I still get the money? The scientist smiled, pulled out a crisp stack of bills, and placed it on the desk. Here's your $1,000. Don't be late next time. Feeling a mix of guilt and gratitude, John tried to return the money, but the scientist waved him off. John gets serious. How did you become so successful? The scientist's eyes twinkled as he replied, I started small, selling flowers. That's how I began building my fortune. As they walked out of the college together, John spotted Clara, the girl he secretly admired, chatting with his friend. He couldn't help but stare. The scientist noticed and smirked. See, money can even help you get a girlfriend like that, he teased, grabbing back the money he had given John moments earlier. Inspired, John decided to follow in his mentor's footsteps. The next day, he bought flowers, loaded them into his car, and began delivering them around town. It was the start of his journey to success. Victor strides into the lab, his gaze sharp as he addresses the team. Where's the nanocatalyst? He demands. One of the scientists steps forward nervously. We didn't receive the nanocatalyst, sir. Instead, we got nanofuel. But this fuel can only be made using that catalyst. Victor's attention shifts to a series of sketches on the table, blueprints of a car. Intrigued, he points at them. And these? The scientists exchange uneasy glances. Nothing important, one mutters, but Victor's keen eye spots a wheel cap lying nearby. It matches the car in the drawings. His expression hardens as he snaps. Find a car that matches these sketches. Now! Meanwhile, John was delivering his flowers in the fine evening. The riding moment is interrupted when his father pulls up in his car. Come on, let's go for a drive, his father says with a grin. As they cruise through the streets, the serenity shatters. A thief snatches a bag from a woman and bolts. John's father immediately steps on the brakes. John, go after him. John hesitates. Why? The scientist said we should focus on ourselves, mind our own business for success. Helping others isn't our job. His father glares at him in disbelief, then throws the car in a park and leaps out. With surprising agility, he chases down the thief, retrieves the handbag, and returns it to the grateful woman. When he gets back to the car, John is fuming. What if that thief comes back for revenge? Helping others only puts us in danger. His father sighs deeply, looking at his son with a mix of disappointment and resolve. John, life isn't just about looking out for yourself. We're here to make a difference. Selfishness won't lead to real growth. John refuses to budge. Frustrated, his father stops the car, gets out, and begins walking away. Maybe a walk will clear my head, he mutters. Elsewhere, Victor's men locate John's car, the exact one from the sketches. They begin tailing it, their vehicles roaring as the chase begins. John spots them in his rearview mirror, his heart pounding. Misunderstanding the situation, he panics. It's the thief's gang. They're after me because of Dad. Fear grips him as he slams on the accelerator, speeding through the streets to escape what he believes is certain danger. John thought he had made it. Freedom was just within reach, until they appeared, blocking his path in front of his car. His heart raced as adrenaline surged through him. Panicked, he slammed his foot onto the clutch and brake at the same time. Against all logic, his car began to lift off the ground. It wasn't just moving, it was flying. An old man drinking and watching that car is flying. He can't believe it, and he thought that this illusion because of this alcohol. Victor's men froze in disbelief, their jaws dropping as John's car soared into the air like something out of a sci-fi movie. But John wasn't celebrating. He gripped the wheel tightly, his mind spinning with fear and confusion. He had no idea how to control the flying vehicle. Somehow, through sheer luck or instinct, he managed to crash-land the car into a mountain of tires at a nearby factory. Panicked, John ran away from the car. Back at Victor's headquarters, his men hurriedly reported the astonishing news. "The car was found, sir, and it flew. It must be the nano catalyst," one of them stammered. Victor's eyes lit up with a dangerous mix of curiosity and ambition. "Find that car," he ordered, his voice cold and determined. "I needed to complete my project. No excuses." The next day at college, John couldn't shake the strange events from his mind. Still confused, he turned to his best friend and asked, "Do you think cars can actually fly?" Before his friend could dismiss the idea as crazy, John pulled out a mysterious disc he had taken from the car the day before. Intrigued, his friend agreed to help him figure it out. That evening, they played the disc at a club, curiosity driving their every move. As the data unfolded, John scoured the internet, piecing together fragments of information. Finally, he found something: a lead. An address linked to a group of scientists popped up on his screen, information seemingly embedded in the disk. Without wasting time, John decided to visit them. To gain their trust, he posed as a journalist, hoping it would grant him answers. At their house, an elderly scientist welcomed him with mild suspicion, but agreed to talk. She revealed a long-abandoned project. "We tried to create a flying car," she said, her tone heavy with regret. "But the project failed." John leaned in closer, his curiosity burning. "What went wrong? Why didn't it work?" With a sigh, she explained, "We developed a device called a nanocatalyst crafted from moon asteroid crystals. Its purpose was to transform ordinary fuel into nanofuel, powerful enough to lift a car into the sky. But it wasn't stable. We had to shut everything down." She gestured toward another room. "There's one person who might tell you more, the lead scientist. He left after the failure, but not before marrying me." Just as John was about to leave, the old lady handed him a thick manual. "Here," she said, "it's the user guide for the car. Everything you need to know about controlling, flying, and landing is in there. Maybe it will help you make sense of it all." John thanked her and left. The next scene finds John back at his job, delivering flowers. His boss, a cranky old man, was yelling at him again. "John, the last delivery was a disaster. Don't mess this one up." With a sigh, John hopped into his car and set off, only to get stuck in the city's relentless traffic. As cars honked and his boss called, berating him about the delay, John's eyes fell on the manual. On an impulse, he flipped it open and found detailed instructions for takeoff. His heart raced. Could it actually work? He looked around. No one was paying him any attention. People were glued to their phones, trapped in their own routines. Adrenaline coursing through him, John decided to try. Step by step, he followed the guide. The car began to hum, then shudder. And then, against all odds, it lifted off the ground. He couldn't believe it. The car was flying. Back at the liquor shop, the old man stepped outside just in time to see John soaring through the sky. Stunned, the old man stared at the spectacle, blinking hard. Deciding he'd had one drink too many, he grabbed his bottle of alcohol and hurled it into the trash, muttering, "That's it. I'm done." John found the delivery spot and noticed there was an emergency parachute landing option. But he shook his head. No way, he thought. Instead, he decided to park on the rooftop of the building. As he landed, bang, he accidentally hit the antenna. Wincing at the noise, John quickly delivered the package and noticed some frustrated residents. "The TV isn't working," one of them complained. Trying to stay calm, John suggested, "Maybe check the antenna," and quickly made his exit. Later, John thought about the whole experience and decided he needed to step up his flying game. He started taking lessons, improved his skills, and soon was delivering flowers like a pro. Business boomed, and John earned enough to buy himself a shiny new iPhone. Feeling proud, he celebrated on the rooftop. The next day, Clara and her friend were in class when John joined them. Clara's friend's phone had died, and she looked worried. Seeing a chance to help, John handed her his brand new iPhone with a smile. She thanked him, and before the day ended, John worked up the courage to ask her to dinner. She also accepts. John takes Clara to an upscale restaurant, a place he's always dreamed of but never had the means to visit until now. As they settle into their seats, John scans the menu, unsure of what to order. The choices seem overwhelming, and his anxiety is palpable. Clara notices his hesitation and, with a gentle smile, takes control. "Let me take care of it." While they're enjoying their meal, a scientist walks in, who frequents the restaurant arrives. John strikes up a conversation with him and says that he's focused solely on his own path, not helping anyone but himself, and then leaves. Later, as John and Clara stroll down the street, a bus drives by and flashes its lights 3 times. Clara looks up, intrigued. "That's a signal," John explains with a smirk. "The driver uses it to call his girlfriend. One day, when I get a car, I'll flash the lights and have you come out to meet me." Clara smiles warmly, touched by the thought. The next day at college, John's friend learns he took Clara out to dinner and, clearly displeased, tells him, "You need a girlfriend who's on your level, man. Someone who fits." Upset, John snaps back. "Don't act like you're the only one with money. I've got it too, and I can get a girlfriend with it if I want." Unbeknownst to him, Clara overhears the exchange. She approaches him, her face a mix of disappointment and hurt. Without saying a word, she slaps him hard across the face and walks away. John stands frozen, the sting of her slap lingering as the weight of his words sinks in. Later, feeling deeply unsettled, John retreats to the terrace, his mind racing with confusion. Did Clara really think he saw her like that? Was she hurt by what he said? Just as he's lost in his thoughts, his phone buzzes. It's his father calling, and tells him to pick him up as he is on the way to their house. Still upset, John thinks about the fight and starts his car. Meanwhile, Victor's men stop his father and ask about the old car he got out of and walked away from one day. But his father understands that something is wrong, so he lies and says, "It wasn't me." Victor's men bring the thief to identify him. Seeing John's father, thief lies that he is not the one and Victor's men left. But the thief wants revenge by himself. He stabbed him, and John's father falls. By seeing this, a lady comes and asks for help to John, who is waiting for his father, by saying that an old man has been stabbed. Selfish John tells her to call an ambulance. He keeps calling his father, but his father doesn't pick up. At that moment, an ambulance passes by. Doubtful, John follows it and discovers that the stabbed man is his father. Because of his selfishness, his father passes away. John feels guilty about his loss and cries. The weight of those words became his burden, his purpose. John knew what he had to do. He couldn't change the past, but he could change the future. His father had been a man who helped people, who cared for others. Now it was his turn. Using the car, his father's car, John became something more. He became a hero. He saved people from burning buildings, stopped accidents before they could happen, caught criminals, and protected those who couldn't protect themselves. Soon, stories of the mysterious hero driving the Black Lightning car spread through the city. The people spoke of him like he was a legend, and the news dubbed him a modern-day superhero. But for John, it wasn't about the fame, it was about redemption. Still, there was one thing he couldn't fix: Clara. She was the one person he couldn't save. He sent her message after message, but she never replied. But fate had other plans. While John was watching the news to help, Victor was setting his own trap. His men planted fake news about a police chase, hoping John would take the bait. By seeing it in the news, John arrived to help. He found himself facing the unexpected. The police car he thought was there to help opened fire. It wasn't the cops. It was Victor's men, armed with a rocket launcher. The air was thick with tension as explosions rocked the street, but John's Black Lightning car was ready. In a blur of speed and power, he evaded their attack, throwing one of their cars high into the air, where it landed on the roof of a building. Victor's men were defeated for now, but it was clear they had underestimated John. Victor's men returned frustrated. No matter how fast they chased, John's Black Lightning car was too powerful. "We need a new plan," Victor said, his mind already turning. Meanwhile, the scientists who had worked on John's car project saw it on the news and were stunned. They called the news channel, demanding answers, only to find out they'd been lied to. The reporter was vague, and suspicion hung in the air. At the college, exams were underway. The professors gathered the students and announced, "There are 11 members in this class, but only 10 will be selected." John sat calmly, his posture relaxed, absorbing the announcement with ease. He prepared for this moment, and it showed. But Clara was anything but calm. Her hands trembled slightly as she gripped her exam papers, her eyes darting nervously around the room. She wasn't as ready as she had hoped to be. John noticed. His gaze softened, concern flickering in his eyes. Across town, Victor and his men were on a different mission. They tracked down the scientists who had worked on the car project John had visited. Among them was another scientist from an old photograph. Victor wasted no time. "The government has revived the project," he explained with a cold efficiency. "But the Black Lightning car's capabilities are limited. It's not enough. We need a new one, more advanced. Weapons, guns, rocket launchers, something powerful." The old scientist hesitated, looking at the blueprints laid out on the table. "Without the nano-catalyst, we can't make it work," he muttered. "We need nano-fuel, at the very least." Victor didn't wait for further discussion. He pulled a vial from his case, the liquid inside faintly glowing, casting an eerie light. "This is nano-fuel," he said flatly. "It'll last 3 to 4 hours. That should be enough." The scientists exchanged uncertain glances. 3 to 4 hours? One of them asked, eyes wide. Victor didn't flinch. "Start the project. I'll bring the nano-catalyst. And no one talks about this. Phones off. This is a government secret." His men moved quickly, confiscating the phones and ensuring there would be no distractions. The scientists, though hesitant, reluctantly began their work. As the hum of machinery filled the air, Victor's plan came into sharper focus. He was building a new car to outmatch John's Black Lightning and take it for himself. At the college, the professors announced the exam results. Out of 11 students, only 10 would pass. Clara was nervous. She hadn't answered all the questions, but when her name appeared on the list, she was shocked. Confused, she asked John how that was possible. With a small smile, he admitted, "I made sure you passed." Clara's relief and affection for him deepened. Later, walking together, Clara spotted the Black Lightning car and was awestruck. That's the Black Lightning car," she exclaims, her voice full of wonder. She can't help but praise it. "It's incredible, just like I imagined." John glances at her, a playful smirk tugging at his lips. "Do you want to be Black Lightning?" he asks, his tone teasing yet curious. Clara shakes her head with a small smile. "Superheroes are always alone," she says, her words laced with a quiet sadness, a hint of something deeper. John smiles at her response, understanding her unspoken thoughts. Clara, noticing a shop ahead, tells him she needs to go in and says goodbye. "I'll see you later," she says with a wave. As John watches her walk away, something catches his eye, a sharp ice shard, falling from above, heading straight for Clara. His heart skips a beat. Without a second thought, he runs toward his Black Lightning car, which suddenly roars to life. In an instant, the car shoots forward, intercepting the ice shard just in time, shattering it into a flurry of harmless snowflakes that drift down around Clara like a winter dream. She looks up, eyes wide in surprise, mesmerized by the snow falling around her. But she doesn't see John, only the Black Lightning car soaring through the air. Just then, a flower falls from the sky. A flower falls by mistake, its delicate petals drifting to the ground. Tucked inside is a card meant for Clara, a message from John's friend. John had been tasked with delivering it, but in a mix-up, the flower lands in Clara's hands instead. At college, as Clara walks alongside John's friend, she senses something is off. With a knowing smile, she asks, "Do you want to share anything?" He looks confused. "Share what?" "I know you're Black Lightning," she says, eyes narrowing with playful suspicion. Caught off guard, he hesitates, but then grins. To her surprise, he decides to play along. "Keep it a secret," leans forward. "You're the first to know." In the lab, the scientist couldn't contain his excitement. He'd done it. He'd created the car powered by nano fuel, and the engine roared to life with it. Feeling a moment of relief, he stepped outside for some fresh air, unaware of the secret discussion unfolding just a few meters away. Victor's team huddled together, speaking in hushed tones. "The car's ready. With this, we'll finally catch the Black Lightning. Using the nano catalyst, we can drill to the core of the Earth and extract the diamonds we need." The scientist's heart raced as the truth hit him like a lightning bolt. He had just uncovered Victor's devious plan. Without wasting a second, he rushed to warn the others. But there was no time to explain. He had to escape. He darted toward the rooftop, but as he ran, the sound of footsteps echoed behind him. Security guards had spotted him and were closing in fast. Panic surged through his veins. He had to act fast, but the guards were relentless. They called in Victor, who was monitoring the situation closely. Victor's voice crackled through the radio. "Don't catch him. Let him go." Confused, the guards hesitated. "He's running right into our trap," Victor continued, a cruel smile playing on his lips. "Let Black Lightning come. When he shows up to save him, we'll capture them both with a new car." The scientist had no idea that his escape was already part of a much larger, more dangerous game. Clara was at a New Year's party with John's friend when a news flash interrupted the fun. A scientist was standing on the rooftop of a building, threatening to jump. Clara turned to her friend, urgency in her voice. "We have to save him. He's Black Lightning. He'll know what to do." But her friend, unfazed, excused himself to the bathroom. He wasn't planning to save anyone. He'd wait for the real Black Lightning to step in, then pretend it was him. John arrived with a gift, looking disappointed. "You said you'd spend New Year with me," he said, his voice soft with hurt. Clara barely glanced at him. "I'm celebrating with your friend." John's heart sank. He knew his friend only wanted one night with her. But Clara had already chosen her hero, and it wasn't him. She sighed. "He is Black Lightning. Keep it a secret." John placed the gift, a necklace from his mother, on the table, his face falling. Without a word, he turned and left. Clara looked at the necklace, unaware of the loss she was about to endure. John, the real Black Lightning, flew to the lab to save the kidnapped scientist. But when he reached, he learned the stakes were much higher than he imagined. The scientist says that they built an incredible car powered by nanofuel, a game-changing energy source. Victor, the notorious villain, wanted it for a catastrophic plan: to use the nanocatalyst to drill into the Earth's core, triggering devastating earthquakes that would destroy everything. Before John could act, Victor fled in his high-tech car, launching a missile to cover his escape. In the chaos, John's car became stuck on the side of a building. Victor seized the moment, stealing the nano catalyst from John's car to fuel his deadly machine. Without its power source, John's car spiraled out of control, fell down into a nearby lake. At the same time, John's friend came out covered in snow and pretended to be Black Lightning in front of Clara. However, Clara noticed John's mother's necklace and felt guilty. She changed her mind, told John's friend that she loved John, and called him. As the car sank, John fought to stay conscious. Just then his phone buzzed. Clara was calling. Her voice was filled with regret and a confession. "John, I made a mistake. I love you." Her words ignited a spark in John. He remembered the scientist's advice. An emergency nano-fuel mode could give him 30 minutes of power. Activating it, his car roared to life, rocketing out of the water like a storm unleashed. Meanwhile, Victor had already begun his plan. He installed the nano-catalyst into a massive drilling machine and tied the scientist to it. The machine's deadly drill began piercing toward the Earth's core. John arrived at the lab in the nick of time. In a daring move, he freed the scientist and removed the nano-catalyst, deactivating the machine. But Victor, watching the entire scene through surveillance cameras, called John with a sinister ultimatum. "I have Clara," Victor sneered. "If you want her back, bring the nano-catalyst to me." Fueled by determination, John soared into the sky in his Black Lightning car, ready for the ultimate showdown. Victor's car loomed in the distance, with Clara held captive inside. She was stunned when she saw John arrive, his car glowing with an electrifying aura. Victor demanded the nano-catalyst, using Clara as leverage. But John had a plan. With a quick flash of his headlights and a series of honks, he sent a secret signal to Clara. She understood immediately. Summoning every ounce of bravery, she leapt from Victor's car. Time seemed to slow as John dove his car to catch her. He caught her with his car, just in time, landing her safely with his car. As their eyes met, John noticed she was holding the necklace he had given her, the one that belonged to his mother. That moment of quiet recognition spoke volumes. She landed safely, but Victor wasn't giving up. Furious, he fired a barrage of missiles at John. John flew through the city at breakneck speed, dodging explosions and weaving through skyscrapers. Then, with a daring maneuver, he slammed into Victor's car, locking the two vehicles in a deadly mid-air battle. Victor's car began to lose control as John pushed it higher and higher into the atmosphere. Desperate, Victor launched one final attack, but it was too late. John's skillful maneuver sent Victor's car spinning into the void of space. But John's own car was out of fuel. As gravity pulled him back to Earth, he activated the emergency parachute system. With precision, he landed safely on a rooftop, his mission complete. Looking to the sky, he saw Victor's car floating far beyond reach. The battle was over. Just then, his phone rang. It was his mother. "John, are you bringing Clara for New Year's dinner?" John smiled and replied, "I am sure she'll be there." In the final scene, John and Clara walked through the quiet streets, the snowflakes dancing in the air around them. Everything was still, the world hushed beneath the soft fall of snow. Clara stopped and looked at him, her eyes bright with love. "I love you, John," she said. John smiled, his heart full. Without a word, he leaned in and kissed her. Their story didn't need words to end. What would you do if you had a flying car? Drop a comment below, and don't forget to hit like if you enjoyed this ride.